The ballroom felt too small. Daniel Carter stood frozen in a circle of faces he hadn't seen in 15 years, watching his ex-wife deliver the final blow with surgical precision. The grand ballroom of the Benson Hotel stretched wide around
What is it?
him.
Are you all right?
Brass
She's just
fixtures
excited.
catching
Everyone's
light from
staring.
chandeliers, Art Deco sconces throwing shadows across Portland's business elite and former classmates from University of Oregon, but none of it mattered. Jessica's voice carried across the polished floor, clear and certain, cutting through the murmur of 50 people who'd once known him as someone else entirely. "You were never a good father, Daniel. I need people to know the truth." Around them, former classmates went silent. Someone whispered something sharp. A woman near the bar covered her mouth. The jazz trio in the corner kept playing, oblivious to the execution unfolding 10 feet away. Daniel's face went blank. Not angry, not defensive, just empty. Monica Hayes smirked from Jessica's left side, arms crossed like a bodyguard. Claire Bennett stared at her boots, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. Jessica's tone softened, almost maternal. "I don't want to embarrass you in front of everyone from our old Portland State days, but people deserve to know what I went through." She paused, letting the room absorb it. "You were a decent husband, but you weren't a good father. I couldn't let Emma grow up thinking that was normal." The crowd shifted. Whispers spread like fire across dry grass. Daniel felt the weight of their judgment pressing down like wet concrete, filling his lungs, making it hard to breathe. 6 years of silence. 6 years of protecting his daughter from exactly this moment. All of it collapsing in real time. "I hope you've at least tried to improve since I left for Chicago." Jessica's pause landed heavy. "For Emma's sake." Daniel's throat closed. He couldn't speak, couldn't defend himself, couldn't do anything but stand there while his past was rewritten in front of people who used to know him. The words came out quiet, almost a whisper. "I need some air." He turned toward the exit, the Portland skyline visible through tall windows behind him, rain beginning to streak the glass. Then, everything stopped. 6 days earlier. Portland, Oregon. Morning light filtered through the kitchen window of Daniel's apartment in Selwood, the neighborhood's craftsman houses still holding morning mist. 6:15 on a Monday, and he was already 2 steps into a routine so ingrained he could execute it half asleep. Emma's lunchbox sat open on the counter, turkey sandwich, apple slices, string cheese, granola bar. Her homework folder waited beside it, math worksheet completed in her careful 9-year-old handwriting. The photo on the refrigerator caught the light. His father, Thomas Carter, standing in front of the Boeing plant on East Marginal Way. Work boots, faded jeans, the kind of weathered face that came from 30 years on a manufacturing line. Someone had scrawled a note across the bottom in black Sharpie. "Character is what you do when no one's watching. Dad." Daniel stared at it longer than he meant to. "What's this?" Emma appeared in the doorway, already dressed for school in jeans and her Portland Thorns FC sweatshirt. She held a cream-colored envelope, the kind with a person's name typed across the front in serif font. He took it from her. Heavy card stock. University of Oregon Class of 2009 Reunion, printed in forest green. Saturday, October 14th, 7 p.m., the Benson Hotel Grand Ballroom. His stomach dropped. "Are you going?" Emma set her backpack on a chair, eyes bright with curiosity. "I don't know, kiddo." "You should go." She pulled out a chair and sat swinging her legs. "You never do anything fun anymore." "I do fun things." "Like what?" He opened his mouth, closed it. She had him there. "We went to that Timbers game last month." "That was for my field trip. It doesn't count." She tilted her head, studying him with the unnerving perception kids sometimes had. "What's the worst that could happen?" The worst. Daniel could think of several scenarios, all of them involving Jessica. The last reunion had been 5 years ago at a downtown venue he couldn't remember the name of. She hadn't shown. He'd spent 2 hours making small talk with people he barely remembered, then left early to pick up Emma from his sister's place. This time felt different. Heavier, like standing at the edge of something he couldn't see the bottom of. "Will Mom be there?" The question landed like a stone in still water. I don't know. Emma nodded slowly, then went back to her cereal. The subject closed. She'd learned not to push when it came to her mother. 6 years of custody arrangements and unanswered phone calls had taught her that some topics weren't worth the energy. Daniel looked at his father's photo again. Character is what you do when no one's watching. Maybe you're right. He tucked the invitation into his pocket. I'll think about it. Emma smiled, the kind that lit up her whole face. Good. You need to do something besides work and soccer practice. She wasn't wrong. 20 seconds of memory flashed through his mind. Courthouse wedding. July 2010. Jessica in a simple white dress, him in his only suit. Her pregnant 6 months later, glowing in their tiny apartment near campus. The custody hearing at Multnomah County Circuit Court, March 2018. Her lawyer whispering about appeals. Her face when she said no, she needed to focus on her career. The divorce papers signed in an office on Southwest Broadway, both of them numb and distant. Daniel blinked the images away. That was then. This was now. Finish your breakfast. We leave in 20 minutes. The 27th floor of Pioneer Tower offered views of Mount Hood on clear days. This wasn't one of them. Gray clouds hung low over downtown Portland, the kind of October morning that promised rain by noon. Daniel sat at his desk outside Katherine Morrison's corner office, reviewing her schedule for the week. Seattle on Saturday for a Boeing acquisition dinner, San Francisco on Tuesday for investor meetings, a logistics review in Bend the following Thursday. His job was to make sure every detail aligned: flights, hotels, ground transportation meeting agendas. 4 years of this. 4 years of anticipating what Katherine needed before she asked for it, of managing calendars across 3 time zones, of being the person who knew where everything was and how everything worked. Jordan Wells approached, 24 years old and nervous as hell. Junior analyst, 3 months into the job, still figuring out how to navigate corporate culture. Hey Daniel, I've got the quarterly presentation in an hour. Jordan ran a hand through his hair. I don't know if I'm ready. Daniel minimized his screen. You know the numbers? Yeah. You verified the data sources 3 times. Then you're ready. Daniel leaned back in his chair. Don't apologize before you start. State your conclusion first, then show your work. They want the answer up front, not a mystery novel. Jordan nodded, but the anxiety didn't leave his face. Did someone teach you that? My father. Daniel glanced at the small framed photo on his desk. Same one from the fridge at home. He was a foreman at the Boeing plant. He said confidence isn't being right. It's knowing you did the work. Thanks, man. I don't know what I'd do without you. You'd figure it out. That's what I'm teaching you. How to think, not what to think. Jordan headed back to his desk. Through the glass wall of Katherine's office, Daniel saw her look up from her laptop. She'd heard the conversation. Her expression didn't change, but something in her eyes shifted. Acknowledgement, maybe, or calculation. Katherine Morrison didn't miss details. That was how you built a logistics empire worth $800 million by age 42. Daniel, her voice carried through the open door. Come in. He grabbed his tablet and entered. The office was exactly what people expected from a billionaire CEO: floor-to-ceiling windows, minimalist furniture, a desk that probably cost more than his car. Katherine sat behind it in a charcoal pantsuit, black coffee in a plain ceramic mug, every detail precise. Seattle on Saturday. She pulled up a file on her laptop, angled the screen so he could see. The Boeing dinner is at 7. I want you to coordinate with their logistics team on the distribution proposal. Already done. They're sending the updated specs this afternoon. Good. She typed something, then paused. The Benson Hotel, downtown Portland. Same place as your reunion. Daniel blinked. He'd mentioned the reunion exactly once 3 weeks ago in passing. Katherine remembered. Yes, ma'am. If you need to leave early Saturday, coordinate with Thompson. I can manage the dinner solo if necessary. I appreciate it, but I'll be there. She nodded, already back to her screen. I remember details. That's why you work for me. Dismissed. Daniel returned to his desk, that familiar weight settling in his chest. Katherine Morrison didn't do small talk. Every word served a purpose. If she remembered the reunion, it wasn't idle chit-chat. It was information filed away for future use. He didn't know why that made him uneasy. 2,000 miles east, Jessica Foster stood in her luxury apartment in Chicago's River North neighborhood, phone pressed to her ear. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered views of the Chicago River, the kind of real estate that screamed success in a language everyone understood. "I need closure, Claire." On the other end, Claire Bennett sighed. They'd known each other since sophomore year, back when they lived in campus housing and stayed up late studying for economics exams. Now Claire worked finance in Seattle, flew in for reunions, kept in touch with the old college crowd. "Jessica, it's been 6 years. "Exactly. 6 years of everyone thinking he's this devoted single dad, the martyr who stayed in Portland while I chased my career." She paced to the window, staring at the river below. "They don't know the truth." "What truth?" "That he forced me out, that I had no choice." Silence on the line. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Jessica turned to face her reflection in the window. Blonde hair, perfectly styled designer dress that fit like it was made for her because it was. Every detail curated, every element controlled. "I need people to know what I went through. He gets to play the victim. I get to be the career woman who abandoned her child." "Did you talk to Monica?" "She'll be there. She still lives in Portland Pearl District. She's on my side." Claire didn't respond. Jessica could hear the doubt in the silence. "I checked his Facebook. He's going. This is my chance to set the record straight." "Jessica, I have to do this, Claire." She ended the call, pulled up her text messages, typed a quick note to Monica. "He'll be there. I checked. This is my chance." Monica's response came back in seconds. "I've got your back." Jessica walked to her bedroom, opened her closet. Saturday's outfit already hung, waiting, black cocktail dress, expensive but understated, the kind that said she'd succeeded without trying. Her mind drifted to the custody hearing 6 years ago at Multnomah County Circuit Court. The judge, a stern woman who looked like she'd seen every divorce sob story twice. Jessica's lawyer presenting the case, Daniel, was emotionally unavailable. Never present, couldn't handle the responsibilities of fatherhood. The judge had awarded primary custody to Daniel anyway. "We can appeal," her lawyer had whispered. "No." Jessica stood, gathering her things. "I need to focus on my career." The truth was simpler. Chicago had offered her everything Portland couldn't. A 6-figure salary, a title that mattered, a life that didn't revolve around diapers and soccer practice. She'd made a choice, the right choice. But now, 6 years later, that choice looked different in the mirror, especially when people still talked about Daniel like he was some kind of saint. She picked up her phone, pulled up the airline app. Portland International Airport, Saturday morning. Return flight Sunday afternoon. Booked. Then the Benson Hotel. 1 night, premium room, city view. Confirmed. This wasn't about winning. It was about making sure people knew both sides of the story. Making sure Daniel Carter didn't get to be the hero while she played the villain in absentia. Jessica practiced her lines in the mirror. "I had to be both mother and father." No too aggressive. "I wanted our daughter to have a stable home." Better. Sympathetic without being weak. A memory surfaced unbidden. 3 months after Emma was born. Jessica sitting in their apartment near campus, crying for the 4th night in a row. Daniel coming home from work exhausted from his temp job at a marketing firm, seeing her on the couch with Emma screaming in the nursery. "What's wrong?" "I don't know. Everything. Nothing. I can't do this." "You're just tired. You'll feel better tomorrow." But she hadn't felt better tomorrow, or the day after, or the month after. The weight had pressed down like concrete, making it hard to breathe, hard to think, hard to see a future that wasn't just this endless cycle of feeding and changing and crying. And Daniel had just kept saying she'd feel better, like willpower could fix what was broken inside her. He hadn't understood. Hadn't even tried. Jessica blinked the memory away. Saturday couldn't come soon enough. Thursday afternoon, 2:30 on the dot. Daniel's desk phone rang, the landline. not his cell. He picked up without checking the caller ID. Daniel Carter. "Mr. Carter, this is Dr. Brian Foster. I'm calling from Chicago. I'm Jessica's husband." Daniel went still. He'd never spoken to Brian, never even seen a photo. Just knew he existed. Wealthy surgeon remarried Jessica 2 years ago, the kind of man who solved problems with money. "What can I do for you, Dr. Foster?" "Please call me Brian." The voice was smooth, educated, the kind that came from generations of private schools and country clubs. "I'm calling because my wife is struggling. She misses Emma terribly. It's affecting her mental health." Daniel's jaw tightened. "I'd like to propose a modification to the custody arrangement. Nothing dramatic. Just let Jessica have Emma for Thanksgiving, Christmas, spring break. The major holidays. I think it would help." "That's not—" "I'm prepared to make this worth your while, Mr. Carter. $50,000. Wire transfer today if you'd like. All you need to do is agree to the modification." The number hung in the air. $50,000. More than Daniel made in a year as an executive assistant. Enough to pay off his car, build Emma's college fund. Maybe take a real vacation for once. His hands started shaking. "My daughter isn't for sale." "Everyone has a price, Mr. Carter. 75,000. Name it." "You don't know the right people." Daniel hung up. The phone felt like lead in his hand. Katherine's door opened. She stepped out with her coffee mug, heading toward the break room. Saw his face. "Everything all right?" "Yeah." He forced his voice steady. "Just someone trying to buy something that isn't theirs." She stopped. Set the mug on his desk. "What did they offer? 50,000 for custody modification?" Katherine's expression didn't change, but something shifted in her eyes, ice cracking just beneath the surface. "And you said, 'I'm not for sale. Neither is my daughter.'" She picked up her mug, nodded slowly. "Good answer. Let me know if he calls back." She returned to her office. But Daniel had seen her pick up the phone through the glass wall, heard the muffled conversation. He couldn't make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable, sharp, final, the kind of tone that ended discussions permanently. Katherine Morrison protecting her people. That was new. Daniel sat there, pulse hammering in his ears. $50,000 for holidays with a daughter Jessica hadn't called in 6 months. A daughter she'd chosen to leave when Chicago came calling. The money didn't matter. It never would. But the fact that they'd tried, that Brian Foster thought everything had a price, made something twist in Daniel's chest. His phone buzzed. Text from Sarah, his sister. "Still going to the reunion Saturday. I can watch Emma." He stared at the message. Thought about Jessica, about Brian and his $50,000. About people who rewrote history to make themselves comfortable. "Yeah, I'll drop her off around 5:30. Sarah's response came back immediately. "Good. You need to get out. Have some fun." Fun. Right. Daniel looked at his father's photo. Character is what you do when no one's watching. Saturday was going to be a disaster. He could feel it already. Wednesday morning, 9 o'clock. Katherine's phone rang in her office. Daniel could hear her voice through the glass, sharp and controlled. "Morrison Logistics. Katherine Morrison speaking." A pause. "I'm sorry, who is this?" Another pause, longer this time. Daniel saw Katherine's posture change, spine straightening, ice forming. "Dr. Foster, I'm going to say this once. If you call my company again regarding Daniel Carter's employment, I will have our legal team bury you in harassment charges so deep you'll need a search party to find daylight." Her voice dropped to something colder than Daniel had ever heard. "Daniel Carter is an exemplary employee. His personal life is none of your business. Neither is mine. Do we understand each other?" She hung up, sat motionless for 5 seconds, then picked up her phone again, dialed a number from memory. "Legal Katherine. I need you to document something." Daniel turned back to his screen, heart racing. Brian Foster had called Katherine's office, had tried to imply what exactly? An affair. Inappropriate conduct. Something to damage Daniel's custody case. Katherine emerged from her office 10 minutes later, stopped at his desk. "Saturday night, Seattle dinner with Boeing. I'll be at the Benson Hotel. She met his eyes. Same hotel as your reunion. If anything happens, I'll be in the building. Floor 7, room 712, just in case. I don't understand. You don't need to. Just know I'll be there. She walked away before he could respond. Daniel sat frozen, trying to piece it together. Brian calling Katherine's office. Katherine telling him she'd be at the same hotel as the reunion. The way she'd said, just in case, like she was preparing for something specific. She knew. Somehow Katherine Morrison knew Jessica was planning something. Friday evening. Daniel's apartment in Selwood. Emma at the kitchen table finishing her fractions homework while he made dinner spaghetti and meatballs her favorite. The reunion invitation sat on the counter where he'd left it that morning, cream cardstock catching the light. Hey kiddo, I need to talk to you about something. Emma looked up. Am I in trouble? No, nothing like that. He set down the wooden spoon, turned to face her. Tomorrow night I'm going to that reunion. Aunt Sarah's going to watch you. Okay. But I wanted you to know there's a chance your mom might be there. Emma's expression didn't change. She was 9 years old and already knew how to guard herself against disappointment. Will you be okay? I don't know. He pulled out a chair, sat across from her. But I wanted you to know that whatever happens, it doesn't change anything between us. You and me were solid. Always. I know that, Dad. And if it gets weird, or if you hear anything from other kids about stuff people say... Emma reached across the table, put her small hand on his. The gesture so adult it made his chest ache. Mom makes people sad when she talks. You told me that before. I won't listen to sad talk. She squeezed his hand. Grandpa Thomas would say you're doing your best. That's what counts. Daniel couldn't speak for a moment. His daughter, 9 years old, comforting him. Teaching him strength he should be teaching her. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just notice more now. Saturday arrived gray and drizzling. Typical Portland October weather. Daniel dropped Emma at Sarah's Craftsman house in Selwood just after 5:30. Sarah's 2 kids were already in pajamas, some Pixar movie queued up on the TV. Emma hugged him extra long at the door. Be careful, Dad. It's just a reunion, kiddo. Mom makes people sad when she talks. She pulled back, looking up at him with those serious 9-year-old eyes. Don't let her make you sad. Sarah caught his eye over Emma's head, concern written all over her face. I'll be fine. He kissed Emma's forehead. See you around 10. The drive downtown took 20 minutes. Daniel parked in the Smart Park garage on 4th, walked 2 blocks to the Benson Hotel. The building was restored 1920s, architecture, brass fixtures, marble floors, Art Deco details everywhere. The kind of place that made you feel underdressed, even in your best suit. He took the stairs to the 2nd floor, followed the signs to the grand ballroom. Music drifted through the open doors, jazz trio playing standards, the kind of background soundtrack every reunion seemed to require. The ballroom was already half full. People clustered in groups, wine glasses in hand, name tags affixed to designer dresses and expensive suits. Daniel spotted a few familiar faces. Most were strangers wearing the bodies of people he used to know. Daniel Carter. Greg Matthews stood at the bar near the entrance nursing an IPA from Deschutes Brewery. They'd run track together freshman year, lost touch after graduation, reconnected on Facebook a few years back. Greg. They shook hands. How have you been? Good, really good. Still in Eugene teaching high school English. Greg took a sip of his beer, then lowered his voice. Listen, man. I thought you should know Jessica's here. She flew in from Chicago just for this. Daniel's stomach dropped. Just stay on your side. She'll stay on hers. Plenty of room. It'll be fine. Daniel forced a smile. Yeah, fine. He scanned the ballroom, found her near the center, surrounded by women he vaguely recognized. Claire Bennett, Monica Hayes, a couple others whose names he'd forgotten. Jessica looked exactly the same. Blonde hair, perfect makeup, designer dress that probably cost more than his monthly rent. She was laughing at something Monica said, gesturing with her wine glass. Then she turned, looked directly at him across the crowded room. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Daniel felt the ground shift beneath his feet. This wasn't going to be fine. Whatever Emma had sensed, whatever instinct had made Sarah look at him with concern, it was right. Jessica wasn't here for closure. She was here for blood. Daniel tried to stay peripheral. Talked to an old classmate about software engineering, discussed Portland's housing market with someone from his economics seminar, kept one eye on Jessica the whole time, tracking her movement through the room like a storm front. It didn't work. Daniel? She materialized out of the crowd with Claire and Monica flanking her bodyguards in cocktail dresses. I wasn't sure you'd come. Jessica's smile was warm, practiced. Still living in Selwood? The question landed with just enough condescension. Selwood was nice, tree-lined streets, old houses, good schools, but it wasn't the Pearl District. It wasn't River North Chicago. Yeah, same place. That's nice. Stability is important. She sipped her wine. How's Emma? She's great. Playing soccer, reading constantly, doing really well in school. I'm so glad. Jessica's voice dripped sympathy. It must be so hard doing it all alone. Administrative work, single parenting. She let the sentence hang, implication clear. I tried to help before I moved to Chicago, but... Claire shifted uncomfortably. Monica nodded along, arms crossed. Daniel was always better at supporting roles anyway. Monica's voice carried to the growing circle of listeners. Secretary work suits him. Executive assistant. Daniel kept his voice even. And I like my job. Of course you do. Nothing wrong with modest ambitions. More people drifted over. Stephanie Mills, someone Daniel remembered from freshman orientation, 2 others he couldn't place. The circle expanded. Jessica held court at the center. We were so young when we got married at the courthouse. She shook her head, rueful. I had no idea what I was signing up for. Jessica. He was never really present emotionally. I carried the marriage alone. It was exhausting. Claire tried to interrupt. Maybe we should... Monica cut her off with a look. Jessica's voice got louder. The jazz trio kept playing, oblivious. I wanted our daughter to have a stable home in Portland. I begged him to try counseling at the East Side Center. He refused. That's not what happened. Daniel's voice came out quiet, not defensive, just factual. Jessica's eyes went soft. Mock sympathy. See, even now he can't take responsibility. The circle went silent. People watching, phones probably recording somewhere in the periphery. Daniel felt the walls closing in. Stephanie spoke up. Is that true about the counseling at East Side Center? Daniel opened his mouth. Nothing came out. What could he say that wouldn't make it worse? That Jessica was the one who refused counseling, that she'd already accepted the job in Chicago before the divorce was finalized, that she'd chosen her career over custody without a second thought. Any of it would sound defensive, bitter, like he was trying to rewrite history to make himself look better. So he said nothing. Jessica took his silence as confirmation. I'm not trying to embarrass you in front of everyone from our university days. I'm trying to help you see the pattern. Her voice stayed gentle, concerned. You were a decent husband, but you weren't a good father. I couldn't let Emma grow up in Portland thinking that was normal. The words landed like blows. Someone gasped. Someone else whispered something sharp. Daniel felt his face go blank. Shutdown mode. The thing he did when emotion threatened to crack the surface. Monica smirked. Claire stared at her boots. I hope you've at least tried to improve since I left for Chicago. Jessica paused, letting the room absorb it. For Emma's sake. Daniel's throat closed. He couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't do anything but stand there while 50 people watched him lose. I need some air. The words barely made it out. He turned toward the exit, the Portland skyline visible through the windows. Rain had started drops streaking the glass. Then he felt it. A hand slipped through his arm, gentle but firm. Perfume hit him, subtle, expensive, nothing like the drugstore fragrances most people wore. He turned. Katherine Morrison stood beside him in a black cocktail dress, classic cut, every detail perfect. She wasn't looking at him. She was looking at Jessica. And then she said it. One word, clear as a bell. "Honey?" The ballroom froze. Daniel's brain short-circuited. Katherine here calling him honey. The Portland skyline behind them. The jazz trio still playing. 50 people staring. Jessica's smile faltered, just for a second. "I'm sorry." "Who?" "Katherine Morrison." She squeezed Daniel's arm, a signal he barely registered. "Daniel's girlfriend." Someone in the crowd whispered something that sounded like "holy shit." The room shifted. Power dynamics realigning in real time. Katherine turned to Daniel, voice soft. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic from Seattle was a nightmare. I-5 was backed up at the Rose Quarter." Her eyes held his. "Play along." Daniel's heart hammered against his ribs. He had no idea what was happening, why Katherine was here, why she was pretending to be his girlfriend, why she was staring down his ex-wife like she was deciding which piece to move on a chessboard. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. The game had just changed. Jessica recovered first, always did. She extended her hand across the circle, smile snapping back into place like a mask. "I don't think we've met. I'm Jessica, from Chicago now." Katherine's handshake was brief, professional, the kind that said she'd done this 10,000 times and yours wasn't special. Monica's eyes went wide. "Wait, Morrison. Like Morrison Logistics, the company in Pioneer Tower." "That's right." Katherine's voice carried no warmth. "We're headquartered here in Portland." Claire's face changed, recognition flooding in. She worked finance in Seattle. She knew exactly who Katherine Morrison was, what she was worth, what it meant for her to be standing here claiming Daniel Carter as her boyfriend. Jessica's smile tightened, but she pushed forward. "And how did you two meet?" "At work. He's my executive assistant." Pause. Just long enough. "Best hire I ever made." Daniel felt the lie wrap around him like armor. Katherine had never promoted him. He'd held the same position for 4 years. But she said it with such absolute certainty that even he almost believed it. "Executive assistant." Jessica's tone sharpened. "I thought he was a secretary." "Same role, different title. I promoted him twice in 4 years." The crowd leaned in. This wasn't about Daniel anymore. This was about watching two apex predators circle each other, testing for weakness, looking for the opening that would end it. "How long have you been together?" "Long enough to know what kind of person he is." "And what kind is that?" Katherine listed facts like she was reading from a report. "He shows up 15 minutes early every day. Never misses Emma's soccer games at Washington Park, schedules meetings around them. Turned down a VP track position because it required travel to our Bay Area offices." Each word landed with precision. No emotion, just data. The kind of data that couldn't be argued with because it was demonstrably true. Monica stepped closer. "Anyone can be professional at work." Katherine turned to her, ice forming in the space between them. "People who lie at home usually lie at work. I've found the opposite is also true." Stephanie spoke up, arms crossed. "That's a pretty bold claim, Miss Morrison." "I don't make claims. I make observations based on 4 years of daily interaction." Katherine's voice stayed level, but something underneath it suggested contradicting her would be unwise. "Daniel requested early leave exactly 12 times in those 4 years. Every single one for Emma. He made up every hour, usually staying until 7 or 8. Most people don't." Jessica tried to cut in. "Well, at work, sure, but he also pays child support, despite having full custody. Did you know that—" Jessica flinched. Actual physical reaction gone in a second, but unmistakable to everyone watching. The crowd murmured. People reassessing, recalculating who the victim was in this story. Katherine pulled her iPhone from her clutch. "Daniel, when did you finalize the divorce?" He blinked, following the script without knowing where it led. "March 2018, Multnomah County." She turned to Jessica. "And when did you move to Chicago?" "I don't see how that's relevant." "Humor me." Jessica's jaw tightened. June 2018. I had a job offer at Kellerman Pharma. So you moved 3 months after the divorce for your career. I had an opportunity I couldn't pass up. Did you ask for joint custody during those 3 months while you were still in Portland? Silence. The kind that screamed louder than words. Did you petition to modify the custody agreement after you moved to Chicago? I couldn't afford the legal fees for interstate. Katherine's expression didn't change. You're a marketing director at Kellerman Pharma in Chicago. According to Glassdoor, that position pays between $170,000 and $190,000 annually. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone's wine glass clinked against their teeth. And your husband, Dr. Brian Foster, just offered Daniel $50,000 this week to modify custody, so money clearly isn't the issue. Jessica went pale. Actually pale. What Brian wouldn't... He called Daniel's office line on Thursday at 2:30 p.m. Daniel turned him down. Katherine's voice stayed even. Did you not know? The room held its breath. You didn't fight for custody because you didn't want it. You chose Chicago over Emma. That's not Daniel's failure. That's yours. Jessica's voice cracked. You don't understand what it's like to choose between career and child. You're right. I don't make that choice. Katherine's tone softened, but only slightly. But I know what it's like to own the choices I do make. Claire walked away, just turned and headed for the bar without a word, the coalition fracturing in real time. Stephanie uncrossed her arms, looked at Jessica differently now, reassessing everything she'd just heard through the lens of someone who clearly hadn't told the whole truth. Monica tried to salvage it. Jessica had every right to move to Chicago for her career. Absolutely. Katherine's tone stayed neutral. But having the right to make a choice doesn't mean you get to rewrite why you made it. Greg Matthews stepped forward, hands raised. Hey, everyone's had a lot to drink. Let's just call it a night. Jessica ignored him, stared at Daniel like he'd orchestrated the whole thing. You turned everyone against me. You poisoned them with your version. Daniel found his voice, finally, after 6 years of silence. No, you did that yourself. The words came out steady, not angry, just true. I never told anyone what really happened. Not Greg, not my co-workers at Morrison. Not even Sarah knows the full story about why you left Portland. He held Jessica's gaze. You're the only one who talks about the divorce, because you need people to believe your version that I drove you away instead of you choosing to leave. Jessica's eyes filled with tears, but they looked like rage, not sadness. I was a good mother when I was here. You were. Daniel held her gaze. But you left. And I stayed. Katherine's hand touched his elbow. Are you ready to leave? He nodded. Couldn't speak anymore. The adrenaline was wearing off, leaving behind something that felt like exhaustion mixed with relief, mixed with something he couldn't name. They walked toward the exit, arms still linked. Past Lou the bartender, an older guy who'd worked Portland hotels for 30 years. He nodded at Katherine with recognition, the kind you give someone you've seen on the business news. Whispers followed them out. Is that really Katherine Morrison? I had no idea Daniel was dating someone like that. Did you see Jessica's face when she mentioned the 50,000? Behind them, Jessica stood alone in the center of the ballroom. Monica had disappeared. Claire was at the bar with her back turned. Stephanie was talking quietly to Greg, both of them glancing at Jessica with expressions that suggested they were reevaluating everything they thought they knew. Isolated, diminished. Exactly what she'd tried to do to Daniel. The hallway outside was carpeted Art Deco sconces casting soft light. Muffled jazz music leaked through the closed doors. Daniel stopped walking. Katherine's arm slipped free. Why did you do that? I told you I had a dinner at the hotel. Boeing acquisition meeting. It finished early. That's not what I mean. I know. She looked at him directly. No corporate polish. Just a woman making a choice. I don't like bullies. I don't like watching good people get destroyed for being decent. You barely know me outside of work. I know you well enough. 4 years of daily interaction teaches you who someone is. Daniel's mind caught up. How did you know what Brian offered? I only told you he called, not the details. Katherine's expression shifted, something that might have been anger in someone less controlled. He didn't just call you, he called my office first, Wednesday morning, asked to speak to HR about your employment. Daniel went still. He wanted to know if you'd be fired for inappropriate behavior with a supervisor. Implied we were having an affair to damage your custody case. The pieces fell into place. Brian Foster had tried to preemptively destroy Daniel's credibility, set up a narrative where Daniel was sleeping with his boss, using that relationship to gain advantages, making him look like exactly the kind of person who shouldn't have custody of a child. What did you tell him? I told him if he called my company again, I'd have our legal team bury him in harassment charges. Katherine met his eyes. Then he called you Thursday. You knew Jessica was planning something. I suspected. That's why when my Seattle dinner ended at 8:15, I came down to check on you instead of driving back to Portland. Daniel stared at her. This woman who barely spoke to him beyond logistics coordination, who'd never asked about his personal life, who remembered details but never explained why. She'd known, she'd prepared, she'd shown up. Everything you said in there, the promotions, I exaggerated some details. The core was true. You're exactly who I said you are. Why would you risk your reputation for me? Katherine paused, chose her words carefully. Because reputation means nothing if you don't use it to protect people who deserve protecting. They stood in the quiet hallway, Portland city lights visible through a window at the far end. The rain had picked up drops, streaking the glass. Daniel asked the question he wasn't sure he wanted answered. Are you worried about professional boundaries? HR implications? I stopped worrying about that when I built my own company. I make the rules. She turned toward the window, voice dropping just slightly. I was divorced at 28. First husband was a real estate developer in Bellevue. When I started Morrison, he tried to claim half the IP in the divorce. Said he'd funded it, which was a lie. I bootstrapped with student loans from University of Oregon. Daniel had never heard this. It wasn't in any article about her. Not in the Forbes profile or the TechCrunch feature or the Portland Business Journal cover story. He tried to sabotage my Series A funding by calling investors. Told them I was unstable emotional, that the company was built on his ideas and I'd stolen them. Katherine's voice stayed even. I know what it's like when someone rewrites the story to make themselves the hero and you the villain. I didn't know any of that. It's not in. Why would I advertise it? I won. The court sided with me. He moved back to California. I built what I built. She looked at him again. Take Monday off. You need space to process this. I can't. I have meetings scheduled, bills. It's not optional. I'm telling you, not asking. You have 3 weeks of unused PTO. Daniel's throat tightened. The control he'd held all evening started to crack. He turned toward the window, shoulders shaking. Tears ran down his face in the dim light. Silent. Unstoppable. Not sobbing, just release. 6 years of holding it together. Of being the good father. Of never defending himself, because defending meant engaging, and engaging meant making it worse for Emma. All of it breaking open in a hotel hallway. Katherine hesitated, then stepped closer. Hey, Daniel, look at me. He turned, wiping his face with his hand. Sorry, I needed someone to believe me for once. Someone besides Sarah or Emma. Someone who didn't have to. I do believe you. And I'm not the only one. Claire walked away. Stephanie looked like she wanted to apologize. Greg tried to diffuse. Katherine's voice went quiet. You're not alone in this. Daniel nodded, getting control back, breathing steadier. Thank you for what you did in there. You don't need to keep thanking me. I do, though. You didn't have to do what you did. Katherine studied him. Silence isn't weakness, Daniel. You chose not to engage with someone who was determined to hurt you. That takes more strength than people realize. She paused. But you don't have to be silent all the time. Some people will actually listen. She started to walk away. stopped, turned back. People see what you do, not what someone says about you. Remember that Monday when you're sitting at home wondering if any of this matters. Then she was gone, heels clicking down the hallway toward the elevator. Daniel stood alone. Portland lights reflecting off wet pavement 27 floors below. The reunion still happening behind closed doors. His ex-wife probably explaining to anyone who'd listen, rewriting the narrative again. But something had shifted. Some weight he'd carried for 6 years felt lighter. Not gone, just bearable. The drive to Selwood took 20 minutes. Daniel crossed the Willamette River via Ross Island Bridge streetlights reflecting off wet pavement. Classic Portland drizzle had turned into actual rain. Sarah opened the door in sweatpants and an old Trailblazers hoodie. Read his face immediately. "What happened?" "I'll tell you later when Emma's not listening." Emma came running, backpack in hand, face bright. "Was it fun?" "It was interesting." The drive home, Emma chattered about the movie again. She'd seen it 100 times but still found new details to discuss. Daniel watched her in the rearview mirror, grounding himself in her voice. "Did you see Mom?" The question came casual, not loaded. "Yeah, I saw her." "Did she ask about me?" "She did." Emma nodded. "Okay." She went back to talking about the movie. Subject closed. 6 years of this had taught her when to push and when to let go. Home was an older building in Selwood. Hardwood floors, high ceilings. Emma's soccer trophies on the bookshelf. The kind of place that was comfortable without trying to impress anyone. Emma brushed her teeth, changed into pajamas with the Portland Thorns FC logo. Daniel tucked her in, pulling the blanket up to her chin. "Are you sad?" Direct question, no preamble. "No, just thinking about Mom." "A little." Emma studied his face. "You're a good dad, better than she says." Daniel froze. "What do you mean better than she says?" "I heard her once, on the phone to Grandma Foster. She was visiting from Chicago last year. Mom said you didn't try hard enough to make her stay in Portland." The words hit like a fist. His daughter had been carrying this, knowing her mother talked about him that way. "But Grandpa Thomas used to say trying is what counts, and you try really hard every day." Daniel's voice came out thick. "You remember Grandpa saying that you were only 4 when he passed?" "I remember some stuff. He said character is what you do when no one's watching, and you have lots of character, Dad." He couldn't speak, just nodded. "I don't remember when you guys were married, but I remember you've always been here, always picking me up from school, always at my soccer games, always making my lunches." Daniel kissed her forehead. "And I always will be, kiddo. Always." She closed her eyes, asleep in minutes. He walked to the kitchen, made coffee even though it was past midnight, Stumptown beans from the local roaster, sat at the small Formica table. His phone buzzed. Text from Greg. "You okay, man? That was intense. Let me know if you need anything." Then an unknown 503 area code. "This is Claire Bennett. I got your info from the reunion list. I'm sorry about tonight. Jessica had this planned for weeks. She flew in from Chicago specifically for this. It was wrong." Daniel stared at the message. Premeditated. Not a spontaneous confrontation. She'd planned it, rehearsed it, coordinated with Monica. He typed back, "Thank you for saying that. I appreciate your honesty." Claire's response came immediately. "For what it's worth, Katherine Morrison was right about everything. I've known Jessica since we lived in campus housing sophomore year. She's not a bad person, but she needs to be right. And when she's not, she rewrites things until she is." Daniel set the phone down, pulled out a yellow legal pad from the junk drawer, sat at the kitchen table with his coffee, started writing. What actually happened in my marriage? Not for anyone else. Not for Emma or Sarah or some future court case, just for himself. To remember his own truth while it was still clear in his head. He wrote for an hour, put the pages in the drawer with the bills and takeout menus, went to bed. Monday. Daniel stayed home. Catherine's orders. He vacuumed Emma's room, wiped down the kitchen, did laundry in the building's basement with quarters in the old Maytag machines. Routine as self-care. Sat on the couch flipping channels. Trailblazers game replay, local news, cooking show. Nothing held his attention. Katherine's words kept circling. Some people will actually listen. He'd spent 6 years not defending himself. Not because he was weak, because he was protecting Emma from the conflict, from having to choose sides, from being caught in the crossfire of adults who couldn't let go. But maybe Emma was old enough now. Maybe some truths needed to be spoken. Or maybe silence was still the right choice. Daniel pulled out the legal pad again, read what he'd written, put it back in the drawer. Some things didn't need an audience. Tuesday morning, 7:45, 15 minutes earlier than usual. Daniel took the elevator to the 27th floor, nodded to the security guard who knew him by name. Katherine's office door was closed. Glass showed her on a video conference with the Bay Area team. The co-worker at the neighboring desk glanced over. How was the reunion? Fine. Good to see old friends. Daniel changed the subject immediately. Pulled up his email. Coordinated Katherine's trip to San Francisco. Reviewed the logistics for the Bend meeting. 11 a.m. Katherine's door opened. Meeting ended. Daniel, come in. Close the door. He did. Nervous without knowing why. Professional discussion. Client meeting in Bend. Central Oregon Logistics Hub tour. Hotel arrangements. Meeting agenda. Daniel took notes on his laptop. She discussed details like Saturday never happened, professional distance restored. He almost believed it. As he stood to leave, hand on the door handle, she spoke. Are you all right? He stopped, turned. Yes. Thank you for Saturday night. You don't need to thank me. I do, though. You didn't have to do what you did. Katherine studied him. I know. But I wanted to. Pause. The kind that meant something was coming. I need you to meet someone this Saturday afternoon, if you're available. Who? My daughter, Olivia. She's 11. Lives with me full-time. The world tilted slightly. Katherine Morrison, who kept everything compartmentalized, who never mentioned personal details at work, had a daughter Daniel knew nothing about. I didn't know. I don't talk about her at work. Security reasons. When you're visible in Portland business circles, you protect your family. She explained quickly. Ex-husband from Bellevue, real estate developer, got violent during the divorce, smashed her laptop, threatened to destroy her, Multnomah County restraining order. He moved back to Sacramento, supervised visitation twice a year. Daniel understood immediately. The parallel. 2 people with violent or manipulative exes. 2 people protecting their children. When do you want us to meet her? Saturday afternoon. Washington Park if you're comfortable. Public, neutral. Katherine's voice shifted. Careful now. I need to know if Olivia and Emma can be friends, because if they can't, this won't work. No matter how much I... She stopped. Daniel waited. I'll tell you Saturday, depending on how it goes. This is a big step. I know. If it's too soon, I understand. But I don't introduce Olivia to people from work. Ever. You'd be the first. Why me? Because I think you understand what it means to put your child first. She paused. And because I trust you. The words landed heavy. Trust from Katherine Morrison wasn't casual. It was currency. Saturday, 2 p.m. Daniel left her office. Sat at his desk. Stared at his screen without seeing it. Katherine had a daughter. She wanted their daughters to meet before anything else happened, before any decision got made about what Saturday night at the reunion meant. The children came first, always. Wednesday evening, kitchen table, Emma finishing fractions homework. Hey kiddo, I need to talk to you about something. She looked up. Am I in trouble? No, nothing like that. I wanted to tell you I'm going to introduce you to someone on Saturday. Like a friend. Kind of. Her name is Olivia. She's Katherine's daughter. Emma's eyes went huge. Katherine from your work has a daughter. The lady who yelled at Mom. She didn't yell. But yes, Olivia is 11. She likes reading. She goes to Lincoln High School, the Arts Magnet program. Emma processed this. Why do I need to meet her? Because before Katherine and I can figure out if we want to spend more time together, you two need to meet. You're both the most important people to us. What if she doesn't like me? Then we'll deal with it. But I think you'll like each other. You both love books. She's read all the Percy Jackson books. Emma perked up. All of them, even the Kane Chronicles. I think so. You can ask her Saturday at Washington Park. Quiet for a moment. Then, is Katherine your girlfriend now? I don't know yet. That's what Saturday is about. Emma studied him. What would Grandpa Thomas say? Daniel smiled, looked at the photo on the fridge. He'd say, character is what you do when no one's watching. And Olivia's had a hard time with her dad, kind of like how your mom makes things hard sometimes. So Grandpa would say, be kind. Emma nodded seriously. I can do that, Dad. I'm good at being kind. You are, kiddo. You really are. She went back to her fractions. Subject closed. Daniel stared at his father's photo, wondered what Thomas would actually say about all this. The reunion. Katherine. The choice to maybe let someone in after 6 years of keeping everyone at arm's length. Probably something about doing what's right, even when it's hard. That was usually his answer. Saturday, 2 p.m. Washington Park. Daniel and Emma arrived first. The park was busy, families, dogs, kids on the playground. Mount Hood visible in the distance. Clear day, rare for Portland in October. Emma fidgeted with her Thorns FC jacket. What if she thinks I'm weird? Then she's wrong. You're not weird. You're thoughtful. There's a difference. Katherine's Tesla pulled into the parking lot. She got out first, then a girl with dark hair and a ponytail wearing an oversized Nike hoodie. She stayed close to Katherine. They walked over. Katherine carried 2 Stumptown coffee cups. Emma, this is Olivia. Olivia, this is Daniel's daughter, Emma. Awkward pause, both girls shy. Emma stepped forward first. Hi, my dad says you like reading. Olivia nodded. Quiet voice. Yeah. Me too. Have you read Percy Jackson? Olivia's face changed. Slight smile. All of them. I'm on the second Heroes of Olympus book. That's my favorite series. Emma's nervousness disappeared. Want to go on the swings and talk about it? Olivia looked at Katherine for permission. Katherine nodded. The girls walked off toward the swing set. Daniel and Katherine stood watching. Olivia was hesitant at first. Emma demonstrated pumping her legs. Olivia copied. After a minute, both girls were laughing. Olivia doesn't laugh like that with strangers. Katherine's voice was quiet. She's cautious since the divorce. Emma doesn't either. Not since Jessica left for Chicago. It's been 6 years of just us. They stood in comfortable silence. Portland afternoon sounds, dogs barking, kids playing basketball game on the court nearby. The girls moved to the monkey bars together, Olivia smiling wide. I meant what I started to say on Tuesday in my office. Daniel turned to look at her. Which part? The part where I said, if the girls can't be friends, this won't work. Because no matter how much I care about you, and I do, I can't put that before Olivia's well-being. Daniel processed this. You care about me. Katherine met his eyes. I have for months. Since last spring when you stayed until 9 p.m. 3 nights straight helping me prepare the Series C presentation, then still showed up at 7:45 a.m. looking exhausted but organized. I just didn't know how to say it without making work complicated. She paused. And now I'm saying it. I'm not good at personal relationships, Daniel. I built a company instead of learning how to date like a normal person. But I know what I feel. And if you don't feel the same, I understand. But I needed you to know. Daniel watched the girls on the monkey bars together, Olivia smiling wide. My father used to say the right choice is usually the hard one. Walking away from this would be easy. Staying in my comfortable routine would be easy. He gestured between them. This is terrifying. Pause. Terrifying in a good way. Katherine's hand found his. Squeezed once. The girls ran back breathless and pink-cheeked. "Mom, can Emma come over sometime to our condo if her dad says it's okay?" Emma looked at Daniel. "Can I, Dad, please?" "Of course." Olivia turned to Emma, no filter. "Do you think our parents are going to get married?" Both adults froze mid-breath. Emma shrugged. "I don't know. Do you want them to?" Olivia thought about it. "I think so. Your dad seems really nice, and my mom is way happier when she talks about him at home. She smiles at her phone." Emma grinned. "My dad is happy when he talks about your mom, too. He gets all quiet and weird." Olivia giggled. "Then they should just do it. Adults make things too complicated." Both girls laughed, turned to run back to the slide. Emma called over her shoulder loud enough for everyone to hear, "If you love each other, just get married. That's what Grandpa Thomas would say." They ran off. Daniel and Katherine stood in stunned silence. Then both started laughing, the kind that released tension held too long. Out of the mouths of babes. They watched the girls play. Two kids who'd been cautious with strangers finding each other through books and shared experience. Two adults who'd kept everyone at distance, realizing maybe some walls were meant to come down. The choice wasn't made with words. It was made in silence, in watching their daughters laugh together, in hands that stayed linked even after the girls ran off. Some decisions didn't need discussion. They just needed permission. And two 9- and 11-year-olds had just given it. Monday morning, Rachel Morrison texted, "Can I buy you coffee? I owe you an apology in person." Daniel met her at Stumptown Coffee Roasters on Southeast Division Street, 5:30 after work. Claire already had 2 Americanos waiting. She sat across from him, looking uncomfortable in a way that suggested she'd been rehearsing this conversation for days. "I'm sorry. I should have said that Saturday night, but I was a coward." Daniel wrapped his hands around the cup. "You walked away. That took guts." "Not enough." Claire stared at her coffee. "Jessica had been planning that reunion attack for 6 weeks. Called me multiple times from Chicago rehearsing lines. She felt like you got custody by playing victim in court. She needed to prove she was right to move to Chicago." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you deserved better than what we did Saturday. And because Katherine Morrison scared the hell out of me in a good way. She saw through Jessica in 5 minutes. I've known Jessica since sophomore year at University of Oregon, and I've been making excuses for her for 15 years. Daniel took a drink. Let the silence stretch. "Is she okay, Jessica?" Claire's expression changed. Something like concern mixed with resignation. "Honestly, no. But that's not your problem to solve." She explained. Jessica's remarriage was struggling. Dr. Brian Foster was controlling, monitored her phone, tracked her movements, needed to know where she was at all times. Claire thought Jessica needed to prove she'd made the right choice leaving Portland. Needed external validation that Chicago was worth what she'd given up. She used to ask me about Emma, how she was doing in school, what sports she played. She stopped about a year ago. Daniel processed this, Jessica's guilt manifesting as attack. The psychology made sense even if the behavior didn't. For what it's worth, Monica was wrong to encourage her. I should have stopped it. "You walked away Saturday. That's what mattered." They talked for another 20 minutes. Claire asked about Emma. Daniel said she was great soccer reading school. That's all that mattered. The rest was noise. Claire left first. Daniel sat with his coffee watching Portland commuters rush past on Division Street. Rain starting again. Always rain in October. His phone buzzed. Text from Katherine. "How's Emma doing with Saturday?" "She's excited. Asked if Olivia likes soccer." Olivia asked the same thing about books. Daniel smiled, typed back, "We might have created something here." That was the idea. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. "Dinner Friday. All 4 of us. My place. 7 p.m. I'll text you the address." Daniel stared at the message. Dinner at Katherine's condo. The 4 of them together, moving from a park bench to her home. The progression felt both natural and terrifying. Emma would love that. Good. See you then. He set the phone down. looked out the window at the rain. 6 years of keeping everyone at distance, of routine and safety, of never letting anyone close enough to hurt Emma again. All of it unraveling because a billionaire CEO had walked into a reunion and said one word. Honey. Friday, 7 p.m. Katherine's condo in the Pearl District. Daniel had expected impressive, still wasn't prepared. 23rd floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Portland. Kitchen that looked like it belonged in a restaurant. Living room with furniture that cost more than his car. But Olivia's books were everywhere, stacked on the coffee table, shelved along one wall. Percy Jackson, Harry Potter, Rick Riordan's entire catalog. Emma. Olivia appeared from a hallway, face bright. I have the Heroes of Olympus books in my room. Want to see? The girls disappeared. Daniel stood in the entryway, suddenly aware of the distance between his world and Katherine's, the gulf between a Selwood apartment and a Pearl District penthouse. Stop thinking. Katherine emerged from the kitchen with wine. They don't care about any of this. Neither should you. Your place is... I know. It's also just a place. She handed him a glass. Dinner's in 20 minutes. Chicken piccata. Olivia requested it because she read about it in a book. Daniel laughed. Of course she did. They moved to the living room, sat on a couch that probably cost 5 figures. Girls' laughter echoed from Olivia's room. How's work been? Tense. People keep asking about the reunion. What do you tell them? That it was fine. Liar. Daniel smiled. What am I supposed to say? My ex-wife tried to destroy me publicly and my boss showed up pretending to be my girlfriend. Ex-boss. I submitted paperwork Wednesday. You report to Thompson now. I wanted to eliminate any conflict of interest. Daniel went still. You changed my reporting structure. I changed mine. I still own the company, but HR-wise you're not my direct report anymore, which means this, she gestured between them, doesn't violate any policies. You didn't have to do that. I know. I wanted to. The girls came running back, Olivia holding a book. Can we read until dinner? Emma hasn't read The Last Olympian yet. Katherine checked her watch. 15 minutes, then wash hands. They disappeared again. Daniel and Katherine sat in comfortable silence, Portland lights spreading below them, rain tapping the windows. I'm not good at this. Katherine's voice was quiet. The relationship part. I built a company instead of learning how to be vulnerable with people. I'm not good at it either. I built a routine instead of dealing with my divorce. Maybe that's why this could work. Daniel turned to look at her. What's this exactly? I don't know yet, but I'd like to find out. Dinner was easy. Olivia and Emma talked about books. Katherine asked Emma about soccer. Daniel told Olivia about his father working at Boeing. The conversation flowed natural, unforced, like they'd been doing this for months instead of days. Your dad sounds like he was cool. He was. Worked the line for 30 years. Never missed a day. Katherine met his eyes across the table, understanding passing between them without words. She knew what it meant to have a parent who showed up, who built something real through decades of consistency. After dinner, the girls played a board game. Daniel helped Katherine with dishes. This feels normal. He rinsed a plate. Weirdly normal. Good weird or bad weird? Good weird. Katherine smiled. Rare and genuine. 9 p.m. Daniel and Emma left. Hugs at the door. Olivia making Emma promise to text about the next Percy Jackson book. In the car driving home, Emma was quiet. You okay, kiddo? Yeah, I like Olivia. And Katherine's nice, but I'm just not used to you being happy with someone else. It's different. Daniel pulled into their apartment parking lot, turned off the engine. You're allowed to feel however you feel about this. If it's too fast or too weird or you're not ready, you tell me. Katherine and I both agreed you and Olivia come first. Always. Emma nodded. I know. I just wanted to say it out loud. Thank you for being honest. They walked upstairs. Emma got ready for bed. Daniel tucked her in. Dad? Yeah. Mom made you sad. You don't have to stay sad because of her. The words landed soft but certain. Permission from the person whose opinion mattered most. I know, kiddo. I'm working on it. She closed her eyes. Asleep in minutes. Daniel walked to the kitchen, made coffee, sat at the table with his father's photo. Character is what you do when no one's watching. Thomas Carter had taught him that. Had lived it for 30 years on a factory floor. Never complained, never looked for recognition, just showed up and did the work. Daniel was trying to do the same. Show up for Emma, do the work, build something stable. But maybe showing up also meant letting someone in. Maybe doing the work included letting yourself be happy. Maybe his father would have approved of that too. 3 months later. December, Saturday morning, 9 a.m. Daniel's kitchen. Pancakes on the griddle, Christmas lights visible through the window on neighboring houses. Emma and Olivia, both at the counter in matching Portland Thorns pajamas, Olivia's Christmas gift from Emma last week. Coach says I'm getting better at defense. That's because I've been practicing with you. Doorbell. Katherine with Stumptown coffee and a bag of bagels from a local bakery. She kissed Daniel briefly. The girl said, "You," but giggled. The phone on the counter buzzed. Jessica Foster on the caller ID. Daniel paused, showed Katherine silently. Your choice. Always your choice. He declined the call, set the phone face down. Emma heard. Was that Mom? Yeah. I'll call her back when you're ready to talk, kiddo. Emma thought about it. Maybe next month. Christmas was nice without the drama. That's fair. Olivia spoke up. My dad still tries to call sometimes from Sacramento. Mom always lets me decide when to talk. That's good. Emma poured syrup on her pancakes. Parents should listen to kids about stuff like that. Yeah, it's called boundaries. My therapist taught me that word. That's a good word. Katherine caught Daniel's eye. Quiet conversation happening without words. You're teaching them to set healthy boundaries. That's a gift most adults never learn. Daniel flipped a pancake. My father taught me. He said you teach kids by showing them, not telling them. So I'm just passing it on. The morning stretched easy. Breakfast. Soccer practice plans. Olivia asking if they could go to Powell's Books downtown after. This was what normal looked like. Not perfect. Just real. 4 people figuring it out together. Monday morning. Morrison Logistics Office. Jordan Wells stopped by Daniel's desk around 10, coffee from the office Keurig in hand. Hey Daniel, I got the promotion. Junior Director of Operations. Daniel stood, shook his hand firmly. Congratulations, Jordan. You earned it. I wouldn't have without your help. The way you taught me to present findings, to think 3 steps ahead on supply chain issues. You did the work. I just pointed you in the right direction. Jordan shifted. Still thank you. My dad's a mechanic in Gresham. Never went to college. When I told him about the promotion, he said to thank whoever taught me. So thank you. Your dad sounds like a good man. My father worked at Boeing. Same kind of guy showed up, did the work, taught me. That's what matters. If I can ever return the favor, pay it forward or whatever. You already are. You're doing good work. You're treating the warehouse staff with respect. That's how you return it. Teach someone else what I taught you. Jordan headed back to his desk. Through the glass wall of Katherine's office, Daniel saw her look up from her laptop. Slight smile. She'd heard the conversation. Tyler gone, she stepped out. You're a good teacher. I learned from the best. Daniel glanced at Thomas Carter's photo on his desk. He'd be proud of you. I hope so. That's all I ever wanted, make him proud and be there for Emma. You're doing both. She went back to her office. Daniel returned to logistics reports, the cycle continuing. Knowledge passed down. Legacy built one conversation at a time. 6 months after the reunion. April in Portland. Cherry blossoms blooming in Washington Park, Mount Hood visible on clear spring days. Daniel stood in the ballroom of the Benson Hotel. Same room where Jessica had tried to destroy him. Same brass fixtures and Art Deco details. Different event this time. The Portland Community Foundation Spring Gala. Black tie optional. Business leaders and philanthropists filling the space. Katherine at his side in a midnight blue gown. Olivia and Emma with Sarah for the evening. They'd protested missing a fancy party but compromised when promised ice cream and a movie marathon. "You ready?" Katherine adjusted his tie. "No, but I'm doing it anyway." They moved through the crowd. Daniel shook hands with people whose names he'd only seen in the business section. Katherine introduced him without fanfare. Just his name, his role, the assumption that he belonged here. The foundation was announcing new grants tonight. Katherine had pushed for one specific recipient. At 8 p.m., the foundation director took the podium. "Our next grant recipient focuses on mentorship and skills training for young professionals from working-class backgrounds. The Katherine Morrison Education Initiative will provide scholarships, job placement assistance, and one-on-one mentoring to bridge the gap between blue-collar experience and white-collar opportunities." Applause filled the room. Daniel felt his throat tighten. Katherine Morrison. His father's name linked with Katherine's. The director continued. "The initiative was founded by Katherine Morrison of Morrison Logistics and Daniel Carter, whose father, Thomas Carter, worked at the Boeing plant for 30 years. They believe that character, work ethic, and integrity matter more than pedigree. Their first cohort of 10 mentees starts this summer." More applause. Daniel and Katherine walked to the podium together. Katherine spoke first about the mission, about recognizing talent wherever it lived, about breaking down barriers between worlds that too often stayed separate. Then Daniel took the microphone. "My father taught me that character is what you do when no one's watching. He never had the opportunities I've had, never got to see his work recognized in rooms like this. But he showed up every day for 30 years, did the work, raised a son, left a legacy." He paused, found his voice again. "This initiative is about honoring people like him, about giving opportunities to kids whose parents work factory floors and construction sites and service jobs, kids who understand hard work because they grew up watching it, kids who just need someone to believe they belong in places they've been told they don't." The crowd was silent, listening. "Thomas Carter died when I was 25. He never met my daughter, never saw what his lessons built. But everything I am, everything I've tried to be, it comes from him, from his example, from his insistence that showing up mattered." Daniel looked at Katherine. She nodded. "This foundation exists because sometimes the people who matter are watching. And when you live with integrity, when you choose to do right by the people who depend on you, when you refuse to be anything less than what your father taught you to be, those people see it. They believe you. They stand beside you. And together you build something that matters." He stepped back from the podium. The applause was louder this time, genuine. They returned to their seats. Katherine's hand found his under the table. "Your father would be proud." "I hope so. I know so." The evening continued. Dinner, more speeches, networking that Daniel was getting better at but still found exhausting. Around 10:30 they left, walked out of the Benson into Portland spring air, cherry blossoms falling like snow. Katherine's car waited at valet. They drove to pick up the girls. Sarah's house was chaos. Emma and Olivia in a blanket fort, empty ice cream bowls, credits rolling on some animated movie. "Did they behave?" Sarah laughed. "They were perfect as always." The girls piled into the car, still talking about the movie. Daniel drove them back to Katherine's condo. They'd been spending most weekends there, the space easier for 4 people than his small apartment. Bedtime routine. Both girls brushed teeth, changed into pajamas. Olivia in her room, Emma in the guest room that was slowly becoming hers. Daniel tucked Emma in first. "How was the fancy party?" "Good. They announced Grandpa Thomas's foundation." Emma's face lit up. "Really? That's so cool." "Yeah, it is. I wish you could have met him." "Me too, kiddo. But you've got his heart, his character. That's what matters." She hugged him tight. "I love you, Dad." "Love you too." Olivia was already half asleep when Daniel checked on her. "Good night, Daniel." "Good night, Olivia." He closed the door quietly, found Katherine in the living room. Portland lights spreading below them. Wine poured. She handed him a glass. They stood at the window. "Thank you." Daniel's voice was quiet. "For the foundation. For including my father's name. For all of it. It was your idea. You made it real. We made it real. Together." They stood there. Two people who'd built walls around themselves, finding safety and tearing them down. I keep thinking about that night at the reunion, standing there while Jessica tried to destroy me, feeling helpless. And now I'm standing in the same building watching our foundation get announced, with you, with our daughters asleep down the hall, building something that matters. Katherine smiled. Character is what you do when no one's watching, but it's also what you do when everyone is watching. When you have the choice to walk away or stay. To protect yourself or protect someone else. To use power for yourself or use it to change things. Is that what I did? Daniel pulled her closer. That's exactly what you did. You saw someone who needed defending. You stepped in. You changed everything. You would have survived without me. Maybe. But I wouldn't be here. Building this. Happy. They kissed, soft and certain. The apartment was quiet except for the city sounds filtering through the windows. Two girls asleep in separate rooms. Two adults who'd found each other through crisis and chosen to build something in the aftermath. Daniel thought about his father, about Thomas Carter standing in front of the Boeing plant, work boots and weathered face and hands that built things. He'd taught Daniel that character mattered, that showing up was everything, that integrity was the only currency that never devalued. Daniel was teaching that to Emma now. Katherine was teaching it to Olivia. Jordan was learning it at work. 10 mentees would learn it through the foundation next summer. The cycle continuing. Knowledge passed down. Legacy built one conversation, one choice, one act of integrity at a time. Not what you say, what you do. Not who you claim to be, who you prove yourself to be when everything's on the line. 2 weeks after the gala, Sunday morning, Daniel's phone rang. Unknown Chicago number. He answered. Jessica's voice, different than the reunion, smaller, tired. "Daniel, I saw the foundation announcement in the Portland Business Journal." Silence. "I'm calling because I want to be part of Emma's life again. Real part. Not just phone calls." Daniel's heart stopped. "I want joint custody. I'm willing to move back to Portland. Emma's settled here. She's happy. She has Olivia. She has routine. She has stability." Jessica's voice hardened. "I'm her mother. I have rights." "You gave up those rights when you chose Chicago. Brian's lawyer says we have a case, parental alienation. You turned her against me." The old fear returning. The threat of losing Emma, of courts and lawyers and battles that would tear his daughter apart. "I've documented everything. The declined calls, the way you've built a new family without me, the fact that you introduced her to Katherine's daughter before telling me you were dating." Daniel felt the walls closing in. "I'll see you in court, Daniel, and this time I won't lose." She hung up. That evening, Katherine's condo, the girls asleep. Daniel explained the call, Jessica's threats. Katherine listened, face unreadable. Let her try. "What if—" "Daniel, you have 6 years of receipts, every child support payment, every soccer game attendance, every parent-teacher conference, every declined call from Jessica logged on Emma's phone." She paused. "And you have me, and Morrison Logistics legal team." Another pause. "More importantly, you have Emma, and Emma's old enough now that judges listen to what children want." Next morning, Daniel sat Emma down, explained. "Mom wants to come back to Portland, wants joint custody." Emma's face went through emotions, surprise, confusion, calm. "Does she want to come back because she misses me, or because she saw the foundation thing and feels bad?" Daniel was honest. "I don't know, kiddo, maybe both. I don't want to live with her dad. I don't even know her anymore. But if she wants to visit sometimes, like normal visits, I guess that's okay. You're allowed to feel however you feel, and when the time comes you can tell the judge exactly what you want." Emma nodded. Grandpa Thomas would say, "Tell the truth." So I will. 1 week later, Jessica's lawyer sent an email. After further consideration, Jessica was willing to accept supervised visitation instead of joint custody. 1 weekend per month. Daniel present. Building the relationship slowly, Daniel realized. Jessica's lawyer had probably told her she'd lose in court, or maybe Jessica had realized fighting would hurt Emma more than help. Either way, the threat dissolved. December again. 1 year after the first family breakfast. Daniel and Katherine got married at the courthouse. Simple ceremony, Emma and Olivia as witnesses, Sarah and Katherine's assistant as additional signatures. No big production, no stress. 2 people making a choice. Afterward, they took the girls to Washington Park. Same swings where everything started. Emma and Olivia ran ahead to the playground. Daniel and Katherine walked slowly behind. "You think Jessica knows?" "Probably. Sarah said Monica mentioned seeing something on Facebook." "Does it matter?" Daniel thought about it. "No, it doesn't." And it didn't. Jessica had made her choices. Daniel had made his. The paths had diverged long ago. They reached the playground, sat on the bench. Emma and Olivia were teaching younger kids how to pump their legs on the swings. Patient, kind, showing them the technique. They're good kids. They are. Wonder where they learned that. Probably from some guy whose father worked at a factory and taught him about character. Daniel smiled. Yeah, probably. Mount Hood rose in the distance. Clear day. Perfect visibility. His phone buzzed. Text from Jordan. "Just got accepted to the first Katherine Morrison cohort. Thank you for believing in me." Daniel showed Katherine. "That's 11 mentees now." "Good. We'll need to expand the program." "Already planning that. Always." They sat in comfortable silence, watching their daughters teach younger kids, building small kindnesses that would ripple outward. Daniel thought about the reunion 1 year ago, standing in that ballroom while his world collapsed. He'd thought that was the ending, the final word on who he was and what his life meant. But it was just the beginning. Katherine appearing, Olivia entering his life, the foundation forming, Jordan growing, Emma healing, all of it building toward something bigger than that one terrible night. "What are you thinking?" "That my father was right about character, but he was wrong about one thing." "What's that?" "He said character is what you do when no one's watching. But sometimes the most important thing you can do is let people watch. Let them see what integrity looks like, what showing up means, what it means to choose right even when it costs you." He gestured toward the girls. "They're watching. Jordan's watching. Those mentees will watch, and they'll learn not just from what we say, but from what we do when it matters." Katherine nodded. "That's the real legacy." "Yeah, that is." Emma ran over. "Dad, can we get ice cream? It's December. It's cold." "Ice cream is for all seasons." Olivia joined her. "Please, we've been good all week." Daniel looked at Katherine. She shrugged. "They have been good." "Fine, but we're walking to Salt and Straw. You two need to burn some energy." The girls cheered, ran ahead toward the park entrance. Daniel and Katherine followed, hand in hand, 2 people who'd found each other in crisis and built something stable in the aftermath. The walk to Salt and Straw took 15 minutes, the girls chattering the whole way about flavors and toppings and which books they'd read next. Daniel watched them. These 2 kids who'd been wary of the world learning to trust again, learning that some adults keep promises, that family wasn't just blood, that home was wherever people chose to show up for each other. He thought about Thomas Carter, about the photo on his desk at work, about 30 years on a factory floor and the lessons that outlived the man. Character is what you do when no one's watching, but it's also what you do when everyone's watching, when you have the choice to stay silent or speak up, to walk away or stand your ground, to protect yourself or protect someone else. Daniel had been silent for 6 years, protecting Emma, avoiding conflict. Then Katherine had appeared, spoken up when he couldn't, changed the narrative, and now they were building something that mattered, teaching kids that integrity was currency, that showing up was everything, that the hard right was always worth choosing over the easy wrong. The foundation would grow, more mentees would come, Jordan would teach the next generation, Emma and Olivia would carry these lessons into their own lives, the legacy spreading outward. Not because someone said it should, because someone did the work. Thomas Carter had taught him that. And Daniel would make damn sure his father's memory and the hundreds of kids who'd come through the foundation learned it too. Not what you say, what you do. Not who you claim to be. Who you prove yourself to be when everything's on the line. That was the lesson. That was the legacy. That was what survived when everything else fell away. Daniel Carter understood that now, and he'd spend the rest of his life making sure others did too.